Hello, this is Rusty Peterson with IAG Wealth Partners, and this is the November podcast for the Armor Hour, which is part of the C-Suite for Christ podcast series. I'm called a wealth consultant, but I'm really known for partnering with our clients to plan for the best, prepare for the worst, and be a steward of their dreams. And today's podcast is entitled Legacy and Heir Care. Not hair care, but heir, H-E-I-R. And ensuring the lasting legacy and taking care of heirs through faith-based principles. So I'm curious, when you hear the word legacy, what does that mean to you? Well, a legacy is generally defined as something that is passed on or remains from a previous generation or individual. And this can encompass a wide range of elements, including a financial legacy. So this is probably what you think of the first time you hear of legacy. It encompasses wealth and property, investments, and any other financial assets that you pass on either to heirs or to charities. But another type of legacy is a family or relational legacy. And this is most commonly thought of when you think of your spending time with your grandparents. In fact, as I was preparing this message, it made me think of both my grandfathers, because I'm actually named after each of my grandfathers, but I never knew my dad's dad. He died when I wasn't even born, when my dad was young, and my mom's dad was bedridden when I was a little kid. So I never had the privilege to have time with my grandparents, my grandfathers. Another part of a family or a relational legacy is traditions and values and bonds that you foster within your family. In fact, it's not unheard of, it's not common yet, but to have a family develop a family constitution or a family mission statement or value statement or statement of faith, just like businesses do. Another type of legacy is either an occupational, a professional, or a family business succession plan as a legacy. And so, it's hard enough for families to have a successful business and continue at all, because many businesses early on don't make it. But interestingly enough, recent statistics show that only about 10% of family businesses make it to the second generation. And then if you go to the third or the fourth, the statistics, it's just even more rare. So certainly a business legacy, a succession plan is something that is common if you own a family business. But then there's also a philanthropic legacy. We have a lot of clients who they love charitable planning, and they love involving their family in charitable planning. There's also an educational legacy. It's very common for families who are concerned about education, where the elder generations will want to provide for education for children or grandchildren or even beyond. There's certainly a spiritual or ethical legacy, and that you want to pass on your values and beliefs and what's important about your faith. There's also a cultural or an artistic legacy. You may contribute to the arts or to a museum or volunteer for things like that. So, that's an important part of a legacy as well. And each of these that I've described reflects really different facets of your life and how one chooses to impact the world around them. And they can obviously stand alone, but you can have more than one legacy that you want to leave behind. So really, no matter what, you're building a legacy throughout your life. And whether we're talking about your family or work or a family business, or you can leave a legacy. You can make a lasting impact on this world. So one of the first questions I have is, what kind of legacy would you like to leave? Might take a little bit of thinking for that one. So now that we've talked a little bit about what we mean by a legacy, let's take a look and see what the Bible has to say on this topic. What are some of the biblical principles that go into leaving a legacy? Well, the first one that comes to mind is stewardship. Stewarding not only your wealth, but your resources, your time, and how you spend your time. In the interest of time, I'm only going to kind of give the verses that I'm referencing for each of these principles. But for stewardship, it's Luke 16, 10, and 11. He who is faithful in what is least is also faithful in much. So, you seek wise counsel when you're making financial decisions, and you consider what you're doing in light of God's plan. So that's the first principle. Second principle, I would say, is generosity. And the virtue of generosity in legacy planning. A good Bible verse is 2 Corinthians 9:7. God loves a cheerful giver. So setting up a generosity plan, whether it's at life, at death, or both, is something important. Principle number 3 is honoring relationships. I think the Bible tells us that it's important to maintain and honor family relationships. Ephesians 4, 2, and 3 talks about bearing with one another in love. And we have to have open and clear communication to be honoring in our relationships. But that's a great aspect of creating family traditions that reinforce our Christian values about money and about life. The next principle, I would say, is prudent wealth management. A good verse on this is Proverbs 13:11. Wealth gained by dishonesty will be diminished. So having a team around you that are sharing your Christian principles is very important. The next principle, number 5, would be planning for the future, preparing for future generations. The Bible verse for this is Proverbs 13:22, that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And there's so much that is involved in this. It's wills and trusts and potentially family meetings, especially if there's a family business involved. We could go on for hours about this principle alone. The next principle, number 6, is a legacy of faith. I think it's so huge to be able to leave a spiritual legacy. 2 Timothy 1:5 talks about the genuine faith that is in you. And I think sharing that, certainly while you're alive, but incorporating that into your estate plan and legacy plans is very important. And the last principle, I would say, principle number 7, would be humility and gratitude. Plays a vital role in legacy planning, because you're by design living on less so you can provide more down the road. James 4:6, God resists the proud but gives grace to the humble. So I think humility is a very key portion of a legacy plan. And then just a couple of other general Bible verses that really stuck out at me. The parable of the talents in Matthew 25, verse 15, at the end of the verse, it said that the steward was given talents, each according to his own ability. And I think that's really, just struck me, because I think it's so common in society that you give equally to heirs, but if there's a special needs, that certainly can take into account, but that it's really each one to his own ability. So I guess one of the last questions I ask is, when was the last time you thought about your legacy? We don't know how much time we have on this earth, and only God knows that. And so it's something to think about. And in this limited time, I hope some of these ideas about legacy and some of the principles I shared with you resonated. And, creating this and monitoring your plan and having a desired legacy, it's going to take some time. An estate plan is certainly a very important part of that. But there's other parts to this as well. And so one of the takeaways here is I'm offering a free complimentary connection meeting, as I call it, a first meeting, to talk about your situation and what you feel is possible for your legacy. Because one of the things we do for our clients is help them build a better future than they thought possible. And so if you'd like to set up an introductory meeting, please call me. Again, Rusty Peterson at 262-446-8137, or you can email me at rpeterson@iagwealthpartners.com for that complimentary connection visit. Thank you and have a very blessed day. And as a final note, securities are offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice is offered through IAG Wealth Partners, LLC, a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.